Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today I'm pleased to welcome Dray Robinson from Start Yachting. How are you?
I'm very well, Ria. Thanks. How are you?
Great. Well, it sounds like we're doing a bit better than you are. You're sort of in some fire zone at the moment.
Yeah, there's been a bit of smoke over the past few weeks, but it seems like it's clearing up. The wind has finally picked up, so that's good.
Nice. Well, tell me a bit about you. I want to find out about Start Yachting and sort of your whole vision around that. But where are you from, and how did you get into yachting? And tell me a bit about your yachting career as well.
Um, well, where I'm from South Africa. I was born in Cape Town, but I moved around quite a bit as a child. So I've lived in almost every province in South Africa, which was quite of daunting as a kid because every time you get to a new school, but it was actually kind of cool because I know what my country looks like. Um, how I got into yachting, I basically, since I was really small, I've always wanted to just go and see the world. Like I came from like quite a poor family, watching my mom struggle with like trying to raise three kids. I just knew that I just didn't want to be stuck in one place for too long. So I ended up waitressing just in order to stay alive, really. But I found out about cruise ships. So I then decided to sell everything that I had and I moved myself down to Cape Town because there was going to be interviews in October of the next year. So I figured I don't have a car. Let me just move myself there. When I got there, obviously just found some work just to pay rent and stuff. And then I met Warren and then obviously stayed in Cape Town longer than I intended to. But I still had that like little travel bug. And then the one New Year's, I met this girl and she told me about her amazing career working on yachts and how she's been to Brazil and the Caribbean. And I thought, wow, that's what I'm going to do. But it was still another year until we separated. And then I thought, okay, cool, now's my chance. And I got my courses done and I got my flights and I went over to Palma and then I basically started in yachting. But like my thing was is when I went over, because I had so many years of service experience, I went over and I figured I was going to get a job so quickly, but I didn't. It took me like 3 months, and I was almost homeless in Palma. Like I went over with a maxed out credit card and a personal loan, and when I got that side, I moved around in a few places and met a lot of people, but nothing was coming my way. And I remember the one day I was walking out of this crew house and I had my big bag behind me and I only had 20 euros in my pocket and I had absolutely nowhere to go. It was so stressful. But just as I walked out, one of the guys that I met while I was day working in another marina a couple of weeks ago came running down and he was shouting down the road, "I got you the interview. I got you the interview." So it's amazing what you can pull out of your sleeve when you're desperate. But I rocked that interview, and that was my first boat. It was a tiny little 21 meter. I was like the stew cook deckhand, and I got all the experience that I needed from that one boat. But that's how I ended up getting it. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say that about, sort of the last straw. You're down to your last 3 euros. You don't have anywhere to go. You're almost homeless. That happens quite a bit. And people aren't really told that story, are they? When they're sold their courses to get into yachting and they're sold yachting as a career, they're sold a little bit of a different concept than what the actual reality is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was strange because there was a lot of people that would just arrive and they get picked up for work really easily. But for me, I don't know. I don't know. I know now a lot about what it was that I did that I probably did wrong, which is a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to teach people coming into the group. And I'm actually grateful that it happened for me that way and that it didn't happen that quickly because there was a lot to learn from it. But I'm not gonna lie, like it is quite frustrating when you have like green crew coming into the industry and their very first day they get an interview and they get hired and they get a rotation gig and you're just like, oh my gosh, you don't even know the struggle that some people go through in order to get that. So it was quite cool because also not every time after moving in between boats do jobs come that easily. Sometimes it also does take a few months again. And there's a lot of things that both Warren and I have learned over the past few years of just like simple things like how to communicate with agents properly, and like what are the real ways of doing your CV. And it's like these are all things over the past 8 years that we have learned and that we're now sharing with people that are coming into our group.
And so that's where Start Yachting comes into, is the fact that you sort of have taken all of your experiences and Warren's experiences, and you've decided that, you know what, let's help those that are coming along. And maybe they won't have to go through to quite the extent that we went through.
Yeah, exactly. So my whole reason for doing Start Yachting as the group, for me personally, yachting changed my life. Like, I wanted to be able to do something where I don't constantly have to worry about finances, plus also get paid to see the world. And it's changed my life in so many ways, as far as like personal skills, everything. Like, I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I've had. And coming from South Africa and knowing the struggles that people go through, and like knowing that there's so many people out there that would want to get in, but they just don't know how. So my whole goal with the group was, it's just to be able to have a place where new people can come in and feel safe to ask any question. Because, a lot of the other yachty groups, if it's a newbie asking a question, like I've seen a lot of bullying in there, and I didn't feel comfortable. Like, this is somebody that's actually willing to change their situation, and now they're not getting positive feedback. So I really wanted to change that. Yeah, and then we started the group, and it's actually grown exponentially since February. So that's quite cool.
Well, you just started this up this year then.
Yeah, we did it. I did it in February, and there was just a few silly videos that we did while we were in quarantine. Just a form of entertainment for us and for everybody else. Yeah, but it's been going since February, and I think it was yesterday. Yesterday we hit 1,800 people, and I know that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but for organic growth, I feel like that's pretty good.
What is your vision for the future for Start Yachting? What do you see sort of happening with this as you grow?
Um, what I see happening is us building a community of a new generation of yachties coming in. I've recently created a sort of like a how to start yachting masterclass, because like I said before, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know when they're coming into the industry, like how to be around other people in a small space. All these nitty gritty things that you have to learn the hard way as you go through your career. So what I see as the future of Start Yachting is, we're building our community so that we get the next generation of yachties and train them on all these specific things that would help them to advance in their career much faster, so that they don't have to make those mistakes along the way. As well as like the whole community that we're building. We're currently busy building another platform where basically people would be starting and Start Yachting and then moving on to that, and that is a really good support system for them for the rest of their career as well. So that's the goal, as far as just building the community really, and making sure that the people that move through us have a whole different set of skills and experiences that would benefit them the whole way.
What do you think through your personal experiences? Because I mean, nowadays you don't even get on a yacht without a certain amount of tickets. But what, through your experiences, taking your courses, dealing with different schools, what do you think was the most important thing that they didn't teach you and didn't explain to you appropriately?
Um, I would say, like, if I think about the courses that I did, nowhere in any of those courses did they ever explain to you, you know, how to be your best around guests, how to deal with crew dynamics, how to problem solve, um, and punctuality. Oh my gosh. And it's not just like things that they don't teach us, but it's like things that just seems to be so lacking. Making it clear to people that, this is still a job. It's not just a summer vacation. You can't just wake up after you've partied until 4 in the morning and then walk out on deck with your hair all messy and stuff. So I feel like there's a lack of professionalism that's not being taught, as far as the courses and all the instructors and everything goes. That's my personal experience, but I feel like that's one of the biggest things.
Do you think that's because perhaps the way to sell these courses as a school is to convince people that it is a movie star life and that it isn't actual drudgery to begin with?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of honesty in the beginning of the stuff that you have to do on board, like, the stuff that you would have to clean up, like the lack of sleep, and it is not a glamorous place to be all the time. It can be, but like 80% of the time, it's not. It's like you said the last time, you're basically a glorified servant. So there's definitely a lack of people coming into the industry realizing that, and like for them the first time they're actually working really hard, and it comes as a shock to the system for them. So yeah.
In your experience, with newbies coming in and those that actually didn't have the real picture of yachting, how long did it take to weed out those that couldn't hack it and those that could?
Oh, not long. Hey, maybe a season, sometimes a few weeks. I mean, we've had instances where people were bring like being hired work, and it being like quite a problem. Um, so it doesn't take long. Like if you are not willing to put in the work, and you're still in the party mindset, people pick up on it, and it's really quickly for the chief stewardess or the captain to say, okay, cool, thanks so much. Good luck on your next boat. Yeah.
Well, it sounds, I mean, it sounds really interesting. And coming from someone who has, come through it quite recently and, to where you are now, it's interesting to hear your stories compared to the stories from, 15, 20 years ago. Because I think right now the market is flooded. You're
Yeah.
seeing way more people dock walking, way more people applying for jobs today than you did 10 years ago.
Mm. Yeah, sure. And I mean, even I only started 8 years ago, and when I started, I thought that there was so many people applying for work. How is everybody going to find work? And compared to now, there's way more. But on the other hand, there are also bigger yachts being launched every year. So if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, every year there's a substantial number of people that leave the industry, whether it is because they want to go start families or they're actually retiring. And every year there's just more and more super yachts being launched. I don't see an end anytime soon, and they get bigger and they need more crew. So I feel like in some sense, it is balancing out. And I also feel that it is balancing out in such a way that like the people that actually stick to it and that stay persistent in finding work in the industry, they do actually find work.
So were you mainly on charter yachts or were you on owner operated yachts?
Um, I would say it was about 50-50. Um, I've done the same amount of charter yachts that I did private yachts.
Did you notice a change in like the age range or the type of people from when you first started 8 years ago to your most recent?
Oh yeah. I think when I started, I mean, the youngest girl that started in the group of girls that I met was 25. And there was a lot of older people that were joining. And now, I mean, people are joining straight out of high school. So yeah, there's definitely a huge age range. Do you mean the boat owners or the crew?
No, well, the crew as well, but yeah, the boat owners,
Yeah.
as far as your charter guests or your boat owners as well, are they, is there a change in age range there as well?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, as far as boat owners go, most of them were the older crowd, but the charter guests were all young people, like people in their 30s, like billionaires in their 30s that would come and charter the boats. Definitely. Mostly it was younger people.
And do you notice the difference between the older guests that charter to the billionaires in their 30s?
Yeah. Yeah, there is a distinct difference. I mean, one of the bigger things is that the younger people do tend to do more activities, more extreme stuff, more excursion-based things. Like we once did for a group of guests. They were quite keen rock climbers, and we were in Mallorca. And on one part of the island, there is this. this rock formation that has this arch, and it's a protected area, but we managed to arrange that they went and they set up a bungee cord for them so that they could climb the rock and bungee down the middle of that. So there's a lot more exciting trips to be had with the younger crowd, definitely.
So is it more fun with the younger crowd, even though it's obviously more work, or is it
uh,
just more work?
I would say it's both more fun, more work, and way more entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the older guests can't, I mean, they are more calm, sometimes a lot more friendly, but much more particular about what it is that what the exact time that they want to eat and all those sorts of things. So they're a bit more stuck to a schedule. Whereas the younger people, that's where the hard work comes in, is because you never know. Like anything can happen. Like your lunch can be moved 3 hours because they only went to bed at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's a little bit more uh, not according to a schedule.
Well, and I guess the definite bonus of all these experiences that you've had and starting up Start Yachting is that you are able to teach those coming into the industry all about this, because these are things that they could benefit from knowing what to expect when they have a billionaire who's 30, or what to expect when they have a billionaire who is 50. What their schedule may look like, and either way. So it is invaluable to have someone with your experience to take them through it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also a lot about understanding what people would want. So, for the older crowd, like understanding that they would probably more enjoy to go do something like whale watching or something a little bit more relaxed. Not necessarily always, but there is definitely a skill to be had to come up with something creative that they don't normally get to do on charters. And that is something that really brings guests back. And if you make it like a more bespoke experience for them, that really, really helps.
And I suppose it also helps the tips too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Who's the bigger tipper? That's what I want to know. Who's the bigger tipper, the young ones or the older ones?
It's really hard to say because I feel that on the charter boats that I have been on, and most of them were recurring guests. And wow, if I had to think about it, I don't think there's a difference. I think that sometimes it would be the older crowd because they felt that they were really had a special time, so then they'll up the tip. And sometimes it would be the younger crowd because we really had to take care of them a few times. So it weighs itself out quite evenly. So yeah.
I guess it just really depends on how much work you have to do at the end of the day, and hopefully the guests will recognize it.
Yeah, make sure that they don't jump overboard while they're partying, and there's sometimes a lot of babysitting involved. So yeah, it makes it fun. It's never boring, which is cool.
I can imagine. Well, you know what? We're going to make sure to provide all your information, email address, etc. If people are interested in contacting you to see what you can do to help them in their journey
Right.
into yachting. And I would
Yeah.
highly recommend that if you are just starting out. I actually, ironically, had someone's mother contact me the other day looking for a little help getting their child into the industry. And my first bit of advice was, please don't go onto social media saying you're looking for your child to get into the industry, because they will never get work. That's the first big no-no. But I think that that's something that I would be able to recommend. Well, if you're looking to get your child into the industry, then they need to actually realize what that means. And that also means leaving mommy behind.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've actually had a few parents contact me and asking me how their son or their daughter can get in. And that was the first thing that I say to them, is like, tell them to join the group and then I can communicate with them directly. And then there was one that said, but they don't have Facebook. I was like, well, that's fine. There's also the YouTube videos and here's my email address, but it's still no reason for you to be the person that makes that effort. Because that's one thing, is that if you are already in a position where somebody else is helping you to get in, like you're never really going to learn that work ethic. Like you had to work to get it. So it's quite important. And I feel that's also a thing about all the younger kids coming in, is that it has to be difficult in the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to feel the rest of your yachting career like that you it has you know that you didn't earn it, that it has to be given to you. So, and that is a very big negative mindset to be in when you're coming into this industry, because one of the biggest things that I've also seen is that there's a lack of a team mindset. And if you can program your mind to thinking, okay, cool, all of us have to work together equally in order to get that charter tip, then that's really beneficial. But if you're coming into the industry with somebody helping you already, then you're not going to be that person that helps the team as much as everybody else to get to that common goal.
Well, and if you can't take 10 minutes to set up a Facebook account, I don't think you're going to make it in yachting.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Personally, I think if you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you can't figure out how to set up your own Facebook account and find all those, yachting sites, then I can guarantee you're not going to be one that's going to crack those books and pay much attention when it comes to schooling either. So, maybe it's just not the
Yeah.
place for you.
That's true. And the one thing that people coming into the industry now have that we didn't have is the Facebook groups. There are so many support groups out there, and job posts and things. But when I was starting, that wasn't a thing. So that's already such a big step and a big change in the industry, that there is help out there and it's easily accessible. You just have to put in the work in order to find the groups. That's about as hard as it can get.
Well, and I mean, if you're thinking about yachting, obviously you've come across other yachties in your time, and everyone in the yachting industry it's a very small industry. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. So all you have to do is ask, and people will tell you exactly where to go. It is that simple to find it. But you've got to take some of your own initiative for sure.
Yeah, you have to put yourself out there for sure.
Well, Dray, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys head over. She's also got a YouTube channel. We'll provide that underneath here too. If you're wanting to anonymously check out some of her videos prior and see what she's on about and what she is about. And as well, we'll provide an email address in case you're interested in contacting her to see what she can do for you. Thank you, Dray, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ria. Once again, it was awesome. It was just a blast sitting down with you today.
Once again, Dray Robinson from Start Yachting. You've been watching another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I've been your host. Tune in again for another episode.